Welcome back to Better Wellness Day at Propelify. We've got a really, really exciting panel, a little different than what you've seen with us in the past. I'm with Ishveen Anand. She's the founder and CEO of Open Sponsorship. Ishveen, thanks for joining us. She's got two elite athletes with her. They're going to talk about how athletes are more than athletes, how startups can work with them, about diversity, about mental health, about drive. I'm really excited about the session. Ishveen, Abby, Leah, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us.
Ishveen, I'm
Thanks,
gonna hand it
Aaron.
over to you from here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Aaron. Thanks, Abby and Leah, for being on the call. Really excited to do this panel. So I'm the CEO and founder of Open Sponsorship. We are the largest marketplace connecting brands to professional athletes. We work with a ton of startups. A lot of people think of us as influencer marketing for the sports vertical or Match.com for sports sponsorship. And today we picked two awesome athletes from our platform, two athletes that our brands absolutely love working with. And today, especially because we're talking about wellness, diversity, being true to yourself, I picked two athletes who I think are really true to who they are. So I'll let them introduce themselves first, and then we'll dive into some really interesting topics. Abby, you want to kick off?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. Hey, y'all. My name is Abby Duncan. I'm a Team USA Paralympic wheelchair basketball player. I've been playing for about 7 years. Long story short on me, I kind of do a little bit background. In 2008, I was diagnosed with a condition called CRPS, which is a pain disorder. I was able to manage that pain up until I was about 17, and I had a few treatments that just did not go as planned and resulted in me using a wheelchair for 7 years. And so through technology and social media, I found the game of wheelchair basketball on YouTube one day. And I found game film of the London 2012 Paralympic Games. And I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. And their arms were jacked. I'm like, what? People with disabilities can be athletic. They can go live their life. They can do this. They can do that. Like, I got to try that. And so my father was retired military. And so we had access down at Fort Sam Houston base in San Antonio, Texas, where I got to try out the game for the very first time with guys that had just come back from overseas that were adjusting to their new life as a disabled veteran. And so it was really cool to try out the game for the first time with guys like that. And so from then on, I played at the University of Texas at Arlington for 5 years, and then was named to the USA national team in 2015. I competed at the Rio 2016 Paralympic Games where we came home with a gold medal, so that was pretty cool. And so this past year I was named to the Tokyo 2021 Games, but ultimately decided to retire in May due to positive health changes and just time to focus on the next step in my career.
Awesome. Thank you. Leah, do you want to go next?
Yeah. So I've been an athlete my whole life, just doing all different types of sports growing up. Until when I became an adult, I started training in CrossFit, and I competed in that in 5 years, which then brought me to weightlifting and powerlifting. I ultimately chose powerlifting as my main sport, which brought me to being ranked as an international elite powerlifter. I am top 50 in the world of all time for my weight class across all federations. And then, which that's pretty cool. And then I compete in weightlifting as well. I am nationally ranked in that. And then on the other side of that, I do coach training and nutrition. So I try to help athletes and non-athletes just, try to live their lives as healthy and positively as they can.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So amazing, obviously, backgrounds, both of you, and there's obviously a lot that we can talk about. So I'm going to get kicking. So I think the first question is, there's obviously a lot of entrepreneurs in the audience here. And one of the biggest things with entrepreneurs is you just have to stay the course. The journey can be long. There's the highs are really high. The lows can be really low. It can be sometimes very lonely as an entrepreneur, but you can just keep believing in yourself. So I'd love for you guys to talk a little bit about, I think there's such a big comparison between the athlete and the entrepreneur for similar reasons. Talk to us a bit about how do you stay the course? How do you remove the self-doubt, come back from failure, which is inevitable in sports and the entrepreneurial journey, and kind of keep going? And what tips do you have for the entrepreneurs listening out there to keep going and be successful?
As a
Leah, do you want to kick? Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, you're good. As a Paralympic athlete, you already face a lot of adversity anyways. For those that don't know, the Paralympic Games are for athletes with physical disabilities. It's usually mixed up with the Special Olympics, which is a whole nother thing in itself. But for me, adversity, I've faced that basically my entire life, between disability, and I had a prescription addiction due to my transition to a wheelchair. Ended up overdosing one night because of the burden and the mental health and the deep depression, anxiety, and it got to me. I was ready to throw in the towel. And so I know a lot of athletes and entrepreneurs are going to feel that low and think there is no light at the end of that tunnel, and forget that your reason why did you start. We tend to lose focus on that and just get buried in the stress and the anxiety and the negativity and what you see, what's going on in the world right now. And it's really important to focus on you and remember why you started. Why are you doing what you're doing? And just kind of focus on that long run. But yeah, so just keep pushing, and that things do get better. Because once you hit rock bottom, you can't go any lower than that. And that's what I learned through my addiction and my going with a disability and wheelchair. When things hit rock bottom, you can only go up. Like there's no other way besides going up. And so just keeping the same mentality and just having the positive mindset of reinforcing yourself, like, yes, things will get better. Things are going to do exactly as I want. And so that will carry out for the long term.
So for athletes, especially in strength sports, it can be really, really hard, especially something like powerlifting, which is a really uncomfortable sport, because the only way that you can get physically stronger, like with weights, is to push yourself to a point that you think you can't. So you have to constantly be testing yourself and testing the limits, and it's really hard and it's really uncomfortable. So to continue pushing forward, you have to figure out why you want to do it at all. So if you don't know why, then you maybe need to step back and reevaluate the sport that you're in. So if you can figure out the why and you know the why, then you just need to try to focus on that. So if it's you want to be the best in your state, then you need to know that. You need to look up all the people that are the top in your state, and you need to figure out what you need to do to get there. So it's kind of in strength sports, it's kind of just about grit and determination and just realizing that it's going to hurt and it's going to be really uncomfortable.
That's awesome. I love that with the why, because I think it kind of speaks to every founder as well, which is like, you have to keep revisiting the like, well, why did I start this? Why am I on this journey? What's the next outcome that I'm kind of focused on? So that's awesome. In your like athlete life, what are some of the things that you've done that have really helped you and kind of surprised you that they would be so helpful? So actually, ironically, I'd say one of my biggest things is commitment to like fitness and sports. Like I find that, you know, no matter how like in a funk I am, if I make myself go for a run, because when you're running, you can't be on your phone, you can't be reading emails, like it completely clears your head. And so I found like exercising has just really helped me out. I'd love to hear from you guys, like, you know, sleep or nutrition, like what are some of the things that you have found has like really helped you on your journey?
For me personally, within the past 2 years, I've switched my diet to plant-based. And I have found that to make a world of a difference. I've dealt with chronic illness almost my entire life. And so virtually, I don't really have any flare-ups. I don't face any issues. My leg strength is almost back to where it was before the wheelchair. I'm able to do things that I wasn't before. I don't spend so much money and time at doctor's offices or medications anymore. And so I see that as such an improvement. My sleep, my workout every morning at 5:30 a.m. that I hate getting up for, but I do it anyways. And just my daily life and even my mindset, I feel so much more energized and like in the present. And so plant-based diet for me has been 180 turnaround for me.
For me, it's usually just needing to have something scheduled and planned. So if it's a competition or a meet, that's usually, I've noticed most athletes, and Abby, you can probably agree, even though your sport, because you have more of a season, so you know exactly when you're going to be playing. Something like powerlifting, you decide when you're going to compete. The only meets that are like set that you need to work towards would be nationals or worlds. So you have to decide your schedule. So especially when I was in the height of me competing, I used to set my schedule out for the year. So I knew exactly what meets I was doing, and I knew exactly the time frames that I needed to be in like a prep and be prepared for that. So that's usually what helps me, because then once you have something on a calendar, you can then create a schedule so that you can just stick to it. And then if you deter from your schedule, then you're not going to do as well as your meet as you wanted to.
Yeah, awesome. So changing topic a little bit, I feel like another thing that entrepreneurs and athletes have in common is it's no longer just about like doing well in your field. There's all of this kind of pressure to also be like relevant on social media. And maybe for entrepreneurs, it's more like LinkedIn or Twitter, but for you guys, it might be like Instagram. And you hear it time and time again from athletes who are like, I've got to do this social media thing because it's kind of important for like my sponsorship or for like my profile or whatever else. I know, Leah, I'll flip to you first because I know that you're kind of a pro on social. Like, talk to me in terms of like, you know, for you embracing social, was it like easy? And how do you see that today fitting into, you know, your athlete career, and like probably some advice for some shy entrepreneurs at home who know that they need to build up their profile more, but they're kind of struggling where to start?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer that in a few different ways. For athletes to utilize social media, especially in a sport like powerlifting where there's no money in it, it's a way that you can create a livable income because of your sport and because of what you do, but not from it. So you can use your athletic ability and maybe your physique or whatever it is that puts you above other people, maybe as an athlete. You can use all of that to your advantage with companies that want to support you, and you know, they want to support you monetarily, but also with their products that they maybe offer, whether it's vitamins or supplements or apparel or whatever. So if you use your social media for that, and it's like you promote them and then they kind of support you as well, that's how you can live and be a full-time athlete, even though your sport isn't the one that's paying you. To stay like motivated with your social media as an athlete, that's your motivator. So I mean, money talks, and we all unfortunately need it to live and pay our bills and stuff like that. And so, if you're good at social media, then a company will want to use you. But it's always a mutually beneficial agreement, right? So that's why open sponsorship is really great, because it kind of brings you both together and you can both help each other out. As far as businesses wanting to, or, you know, maybe not really wanting to do social media, but knowing that they need to, that's the motivator for that can be that you can grab people up, athletes maybe, to help promote your brand so that you actually don't even have to do a lot of the work, but the athletes are usually doing most of the work for you. And you just kind of, you know, go off of what they're doing, and it should grow if you have the right partnership.
Yeah, as for Paralympic athletes, you don't see most Paralympic athletes don't have these big endorsements or big sponsorships, because frankly, a lot of people don't know what the Paralympics are. And so for me, open sponsorship has been a great way to kind of get my brand and my name out there to different companies. Say, hey, I can make you look good and you can make me look good, so let's try this partnership out. And so for a company to have diversity as an ambassador or a partner or whoever, it makes them look good, as that they are very open and they are willing to try this. And for the Paralympic athlete, it's a win-win, because then you get branding for you, your sport, and the Paralympic movement. And so, like I said, open sponsorship has been a great tool for that. And so slowly but surely, I see a lot more Paralympic athletes having more of an income from sponsorships and partnerships, because there's more branding, there's more technology for that. So I've actually encouraged a lot of my Paralympic teammates from different sports to join open sponsorship because of that. And it's such a great tool as well.
Thank you guys for the plug. I promise I didn't pay them. So one thing though that comes with social media is like you're opening yourself up to the world, right? And really funny, I remember I was interviewed by Inc. magazine recently, and they put it on YouTube, and it got like 3 comments, and my dad read one of the comments that was like a little bit negative towards female founders, and he called me up and he was like, oh my gosh, like, you know, my dad's like old school doctor, and I was like, Dad, don't worry about it, no one reads YouTube comments. But like, it was 3 comments and he got upset. Like, you guys obviously with all your followers, I'm sure sometimes you get like negative comments, or it's a little bit scary putting things out. Like, talk to us about, you know, how do you think about, you know, the inevitable haters on social media, or like protecting yourself from like, you know, people not enjoying your content or whatever it may be?
I just don't allow it to happen. I don't allow it to happen. I don't allow it to bother me. Um, I'll I'll just remove it. I think social media is it's whatever you allow it to be, and it's whatever you curate it to be. Um, like I don't follow people I don't want to follow. I don't follow accounts I don't want to follow. But I say the same like in reverse. Like if you don't like what I'm posting or don't like what I'm doing or don't like me, don't follow me. It's very simple. And so if someone's leaving any type of negative comment, and especially if it's like not for a discussion, it's just someone's like opinion on something, you just remove it. Just get rid of it. It's like what you said to your dad, like, oh, no one reads YouTube comments. Like, well, no one wants to read the negative comments about anything anyway, so just get rid of it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's so irrelevant. Like, especially I'm also part of the LGBT community, so I've gotten plenty of messages that are hateful and negative, and one, their life doesn't affect mine, just like my life doesn't affect them. Their opinions are their opinions, and what I've done on the court, on and off, and in my career, I've done that myself, not them. So I'm just gonna, kind of brush it off and whatever.
Love it. Cool. Let's talk about kind of people use it, like companies using you as brand ambassadors. So, as I said, like, I know that a lot of our brands have enjoyed working with you, but talk to us about what do you enjoy when you meet like a corporate partner? Like, what kind of deals do you enjoy? What makes a successful partnership for you?
I can get, so something that I always look for, of course, is if it's a product product or brand that I actually want to work with, or a product that I actually use, or if it makes sense. And so that's what can create it to be more organic, right? So the more organic something can be, and the easier it is. If it's something that you have to force because you maybe like don't really take the product or use the product, then the partnership ends up being kind of forced and feels like an obligation. If it's something that you use or take or wear anyway, it's something that you would be buying anyway. That's usually what makes the best type of partnership. So even if like a company is wanting to maybe pay you a lot of money, but it is a product that you literally don't use, that will show through if you try to share it with people. No one's dumb, right? Like we all know how social media works now, and people know when it, especially with the new like guidelines that you have to share, like people know when it's a sponsored post, like you were paid to promote a product, but people can tell if you actually use the product or not, even if you're being paid to post it. So just have it be something that you actually like or use, and that's usually the best way to go about it.
I agree 100% everything she just said. Like for me, having a company reach out to me to promote their products, I want to love it so much that I genuinely want to share it with other people, with friends and family, teammates. Like, hey, you got to try this out. And a company that I believe in their message and what they stand for, as well as they believe in me and what I stand for, my beliefs. It's got to be a two-way street. And so I want to love that product and the company, everything about it. I want to share it. I want to get out to the world on my social media, to people, whatever. So for me, that's the most important thing.
Awesome. Obviously, at the moment, we talk about more than just an athlete, NFL, NBA, like, people boycotting playing because of everything that's happening in the world. Like, talk to us about, this is a real evolution for the athlete. I really feel like 30 years ago, it was just like play and, have no thoughts beyond. And obviously, social media has really helped open it up. You both are strong female in, especially Leah, like very male dominated world, Abby, again, basketball, like when people think basketball, they think male, not female. So talk to us a bit about, what do you think your role is in being more than just an athlete? Like, how do you feel about standing up for what you believe in, and what's the right balance? Because at the end of the day, you are you are an athlete and you do have to perform on court, and that means a lot too to people, regardless of their political or religious views. They kind of turn on the TV to enjoy something that, you know, maybe they've come home from a hard day and sport means a lot to them and they don't want it to be politicized. So I suppose what are your thoughts there?
So I personally think that it's a personal choice. I have no issue with athletes speaking out about things that they believe in, things that are near and dear to them, something that they feel like they should be speaking out about. But I also don't have issues with athletes not. It of course depends on the topic and on the subject. I think that if it's something that, if it pertains to you and maybe your culture, your ethnicity, your gender, something like that, and if you have a very, very large platform, I think that you owe it to some people to an extent to maybe speak out and say something, but I don't think that you should have to. I don't think that anyone should have to do anything, especially when it comes to like social topics. There's some athletes that are just athletes, and or not just athletes. I mean, like they're only an athlete. They don't coach. They don't have another job. They don't do anything else. There's athletes that don't even run their own social media because they don't care. They just want to play their sport. But then there's a lot of athletes that are very vocal about not being just an athlete, and they want people to know that they have their own thoughts and opinions and feelings on things outside of their sport. So I really think that it is just a personal, like case by case thing, and I have no problems either way. It's just whatever makes you feel most comfortable.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And a lot of people do think, well, you have these professional athletes who earn millions and millions of dollars. Why can't they just shut up and dribble? You know, but you have to look at how did they get there. That opportunity and that job was not just given to them. They have worked hours and days and years to get to that position, to be paid millions and millions of dollars to play their sport. And that's just how their sport is. And so first and foremost, with any athlete, you're a human being. You get to use your First Amendment right, whether you agree with it or not. So just like she said, if you want to use it, use it. If you don't want to use it, then don't use it. I think everyone has the opportunity to say something of what they believe and stand for. And I think that's super important now. And that's where technology comes in, is that technology can bring so many people together from different countries and cultures and religions. And it's such really a neat thing to see, but it can also tear down a lot of people at the same time. So it's really just how you use it and what perspective you have with it. So first and foremost, athletes are always humans. And so they always have their First Amendment right, and they have the freedom to say what they want and what they believe in.
No, that's awesome. Thank you. So obviously the conference is in Jersey, and Jersey is like they're very good at legalizing things sooner, especially than New York. So CBD, sports betting. Would love to talk to you. I mean, these are two categories that are very hot right now in the sponsorship world as well, right? And athletes. So hopefully we may have some people in the audience, that are tangential to these industries. Talk to us about CBD and sports betting, and like generally how you view endorsements or partnering with brands or using these brands that are like new age or like they're just kind of coming to America kind of thing.
CBD I can speak on. The second one you're saying is sports betting, right?
Yeah.
So I know nothing about that, so I'm not going to say anything about that. But CBD is such a booming industry and has been for close to 2 years now, in the last year for sure. It's interesting because it seems like it kind of came out of nowhere, and I guess it's because of the laws changing regarding like hemp plants, and so more states are able to use the plant in other ways than what we all usually know what the plant is for. So I think CBD is great. I think that it is interesting because, like I said, it just like kind of boomed and came onto the scene. So, and just into mainstream media and marketing. So there was a lot of misinformation right off the bat. And I think that it took a few months, at least in like my world, it took a while for people to realize what it even was, and that it doesn't have any type of properties that get you high or anything like that. And so a lot of it was education. And then now it's okay, now people understand the recovery aspects of it, what it can do, how it can help, how it can benefit, and that anyone can use it and take it. And so now it's finding and filtering out the companies that are a good product and not just trying to make money by selling something from a plant that is now able to be used and sold everywhere. So it is, I don't know if I'm rambling or even answering your question, but it is interesting how CBD and technology and like social media have just grown exponentially in the last year. And I feel like you just see it everywhere you turn now.
Yeah, I've been actually using CBD for quite a few years. And so actually before it became really popular, it was actually hard to get because people do have like this negative notation on it, think, oh, you're just going to get high all the time, which is completely false. And so having seen more companies come out with CBD for training, I'm like, oh yes, I can use this. But it's also hard for, at least from the US Olympic and Paralympic side, is that for us, we couldn't use it in competition because we also get drug tested with USADA. And so you can't have any amount of THC on a drug test or you're going to be suspended for 2 years. And so we really had to pay attention to the labels, and also to the point where even if a label says it has no THC, we can't take that risk and sacrifice potential 2 years of training competition for a product that we use in the off season or whatever. But now that I'm retired, I'm free to use whatever. But I found it very beneficial for training and day-to-day life too. So I think the CBD industry is only going to go up and up and up. And so I think it's definitely become a more popular item for sure.
Awesome. And then I'm going to put you guys on the spot here with one of the big things that we're all about open sponsorship is that if you want to work with the biggest athletes and you have the biggest budget, it's fine. But it's, like you said, it's all about authenticity, people who produce cool content or have a high engagement. And there's so many other factors into like picking a brand ambassador. I'd love for you guys to say, why do you think brands should work with you? What makes you a good brand ambassador? And it might not just be, it's not just because lots of followers or like you're the most famous. Would love for you to highlight some of the reasons why brands should work with you as a brand ambassador.
Do you mean why people should work with me personally? Oh, gosh. Yeah. That is definitely an on-the-spot question. Oh my goodness. Abby, I think I need you to go first.
Oh, no.
Come on, guys.
Okay, I'll try. If you look at today's world, and it's becoming so much more open than it has been as far as diversity and inclusion. For me personally, a Paralympic athlete and a member of the LGBT community, I think that could potentially help a company or organization be like, hey, look at us. We have all these ambassadors come from different cultures, religions, sports, abilities, disabilities, whatever you believe in. We have everyone fully represented. And so I think I could potentially help out with that. Definitely on the spot right now, but I'm going to keep hopefully trucking on this question. But I hope that a company, if they see this or through open sponsorship or social media, whatever, I definitely don't have a big following. Only a few thousand on social media, slowly growing. But a company that could see me as an investment more than, okay, you have so many followers now, so this is what we want. We want instant gratification, whereas they could see it as, okay, we can invest in this athlete and then prolong, get more followers, more sales, more of this, as well as that individual gets more followers, more commission, more whatever. So potentially I think I could help out.
I'm sold.
Oh.
Yeah, I guess for me, just being in the strength world, which it is a niche market, I feel so, but it does overlap because of other sports. Like I had mentioned CrossFit earlier, kind of helps overlap and introduce people to powerlifting and weightlifting, which weightlifting we know is an Olympic sport, but powerlifting is not. And people tend to confuse the two sports a lot. So I guess when companies work with me, they're just looking for someone, a female that's, a top athlete in this specific sport. But I also, because I am a coach as well and a trainer, I actually mostly train non-athletes and just general fitness athletes, people that just want to get healthier, more fit just for themselves and the longevity of their lives. So I think I'm assuming that that's why companies maybe seek me out or want to work with me, because I kind of I have such a broad range of people that I can reach. So strength athletes, top, elite athletes, as well as just, your next door neighbor.
Awesome. So I know we're wrapping up soon, so I'd love to talk a little bit about the future. Obviously, this has been like one of the craziest years, the craziest year in history for everyone and sports especially. So I'd love to, how are you thinking about coming out of this and, Abby, retirement, Leah, what's next for you? Talk to us about like 2021, the goals that you have and how you're going to hold yourself to them.
Yeah, so for 2021, I'm hoping, I think we're all hoping that things will be a little bit more, I hate saying normal because everyone keeps saying like, oh, back to normal, because I don't think that things will go back to how they were pre COVID and like the pandemic. But I think that, or hope that we will all be able to get to a happy place where it's not so scary all the time and not so super regulated all the time, but just safer than it was before. So as far as like sports and athletics, in the professional world, we've seen them make drastic changes that at first I think people were really against, but now we're seeing that it's okay. Like with the NBA and NFL, and it's, like I said, it was weird at first, and I think we all saw a lot of people have a lot of negative opinions on it, but it's fine. So I think that is continuing to trickle down into not as high level of sports, and just kind of figuring out a happy middle ground of how athletes can still compete, but spectators can still be there to support their favorite athletes. So I guess for me, it's just finding where I'll fit in as far as competitions go, and hopefully that'll just be a good motivation for me to train and get back out on a platform in a competing sense.
Yeah, with the Olympic and Paralympic Games postponed until next year, I'm very curious to see how that turns out, as the Olympic and Paralympic Village is already a bubble itself. Like how the NBA and WNBA and how they're doing. It's already a bubble. So I'm very curious to see how that turns out. First and foremost, safety is going to be a huge priority. People itself, athlete or not compete, or even if you're not competing, it's going to be a priority. I'm very curious to see how it turns out with fans usually travel over to the games. If you're going to see a lot less stadiums filled up, a lot less ticket selling because of that. So I know a lot of athletes are struggling. I know for wheelchair basketball, they can't even have any training camps until next year. So it's very decentralized right now, not independent training. So I'm very curious to see how things turn out come 2021. For me, we're actually very end of February, right before everything shut down, I became a certified personal trainer. Then everything shut down, no gyms, no nothing. So in May, I retired. And so retirement itself is already a hard thing because you're trying to find yourself in this world away from sport, because sport has given you this identity for so long. And now it's kind of like, okay, now what? Like, who am I? But doing this through a pandemic has been definitely a lot of lessons have been learned. So hopefully next year, I'm still training at work right now as a sports performance specialist. So we'll see how things pick up and keep moving on.
Just on that, Abby, I liken it quite a lot to like when entrepreneurs like exit their company, whether it's successfully or unsuccessfully, they, move into this new phase of life, and like all they've known is this like one company they've been running. How have you, like you said, it's been tough. Like, what have you done to try and make that transition easier into like, who is Abby outside of just, this basketball player?
Yeah, it's definitely been a struggle, but it's also focusing on, okay, what makes me happy? What do I want to do? What mark do I want to leave on this world? What positive impact do I want to make? And if this career, or this job, or this company doesn't do it for me as working a 9 to 5, then I'm not going to do that. Because at the end of the day, I want to love what I do and not absolutely hate it going into the office every day. And so really just finding something that makes me happy and then makes other people happy, and it's a good service and it's a win-win for both. So it's really just focusing on me, my needs for once, my priorities, and what makes me happy.
Cool, that's awesome. So last fire quick round is, I would love to know, are there any apps, this is a technology conference after all, are there any apps that you use regularly to, you know, help you out, whether it's health, wellness, you know, whatever it may, keeping your shopping up to date, whatever it may be, any apps that you're like, go download these, makes your life easier?
I'm like picking up my phone right now. I'm like, okay, what apps do I use the most? I guess I could share like my favorite apps for marketing and stuff, because I know this is about technology and entrepreneurs and owning your own business and stuff. So because I do online marketing as well. So the apps that I use like a lot of planning apps, but I use a lot of like editing apps and stuff for marketing. So if I chose two of my top used apps, one is Canva. I don't know if you know what that is. Canva is a way to, how do you can create content, kind of like text post type things, ads, and it's really great because you don't have to know much of anything about digital design, because they just go ahead and format it all for you. So I use that probably every single day. And then I use another app that's called Plan, and it's how you can plan out your social media content. So those are my top two used.
Awesome.
For me, I just ordered a Whoop. I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with that. I just got it yesterday, but still trying to figure it out. So I've read a lot of great reviews as far as recovery and workout, so I'm really curious to see how that works out. I mainly just use my Apple Watch and health and different fitness apps to kind of keep me on board with my training and recovery. So I still train like I'm competing. And so I'm curious to see how this Whoop works out, so I'm pretty excited about it.
Cool. We'll check in with you soon. And actually, Leah, that's, I'd say, a great point. People always think that influencers are athletes are relevant for like B2C only, but you know, you just gave like two apps that are completely business focused. So, you know, nice plug there for anyone who's you know, a B2B marketer. There's a high chance that athletes might be relevant for you, even if, you know, maybe they're using a CRM to build up their marketing email list or whatever it may be. But, you know, let's not be tunnel vision in how we think about athletes as brand ambassadors. And I see Aaron back.
I'm back on our virtual stage. Thank you so much for that conversation. I was going to ask you about some of the technology that you got to at the end there. My wife is obsessed with her Whoop. She's got like the Aura ring. I mean, you can't see your hands anymore with all the stuff going on. Do you use, I'm wondering if any of you, you know, Abby, you mentioned the Whoop. Do you use a Fitbit or any of these other tools to track your health?
I personally just use I have an Apple Watch Series 5. And so I've just been using that to track my sleep and workout and calories burned. And I check that probably 100 times a day to see where I'm at. But I'm really curious to compare that with the Whoop. So I'm pretty excited about it. That's really all I use.
Leah, how about you?
I actually don't use any of those types of apps. Because I feel like I would be someone that would be very obsessive over it, like checking it 100 times a day, but I probably check it like 200 times a day. So I personally choose to not use any of those types of trackers. I think they're great though. I have a lot of friends and clients who use them. I just personally don't.
How do you track your own progress? Do you write things down?
Yeah, so I program for myself the same way I program for clients. So like when I go into the gym, I have it, like I read it all out on, you know, my phone that I have, that I put it all in. But I don't track calories or anything, especially in strength sports, you don't really need to. So I don't track like calories burned. I only track my intake, like when I'm gearing up for a competition. And I do that through like just my food. So I don't do it. Yeah. I don't do it through any type of like monitoring, like on my wrist or anything. I don't know. I probably should get with the times a little bit more. I just haven't.
That's all right. We forgot to ask maybe the most important thing, which is how much can you lift?
Oh gosh. Well, so in powerlifting, there's 3 main lifts that you do. You compete in all 3 of the lifts. So the back squat, which I think everyone knows what a squat is. Just like
we can assume they will, or
yeah.
they're going to be near a computer to look it up.
Squat with weight on your back. So the most I've ever squatted, like of all time, is 425 pounds. And then there's bench press, which I think everyone definitely knows what bench press is. The most I've done is 231. And then deadlift, which is just picking a barbell up off of the ground and bringing it back down. 430 or 435 is the most I've ever done there.
That's pretty
So a little
fantastic.
bit over 1,000 pounds in total.
Awesome. Keep it up. The theme of this event is to build a better future for all. And so the question we've been asking all the sessions is, how can the tech community help build a better future for all? You all touched on some issues that are very problematic. So I'll start with you, Abby. If you have any ideas of what would you try to inspire the tech community to do, whether it's to build a more inclusive company or a product specifically, but any thoughts that you would charge back to this audience?
I think my suggestions would be, one, if you're a big company, look at your employees. How diverse are you? How many Black employees do you have? How many disabled employees do you have? How many different religions? How many different people do you have in your company? And I think for companies looking to brand or expand themselves, look at different people that you wouldn't normally look at. Look at the ones that maybe don't have a large following. Look at the ones that aren't as a high profile as you would like. I think and that would open your target audience to so many more people. And I think that would also open it to more people want to use your company, want to use your services or products too. And so I think that could be beneficial for both parts as well.
Yeah. Leah, how about you?
I think what Abby said was great. And then, but also just in general I think that with businesses, that if you can try to not think of it as being yourself, like this is about, like, it's not about you, right? Like your brand and your company, even though you want it to be about you because it's yours, it's not actually about you. It's about your consumers. So I think that if more brands and companies can think about the consumer and what it's going to do for the consumer's life, that ultimately will build a better future for everyone, because you're not just thinking about how it's going to make you better.
Yeah. And Ishvi, I'm going to give you the last word on this. You know this community well. What do you think we could do to help drive positive change?
Yeah, I think stay committed to the cause. I think we all, especially with social media, will follow a trend for like a week or a month, but it's very easy to move on very quickly when there's the next thing or when it's like not as convenient. In fact, I had a client recently who, they had a campaign up and then they didn't move forward with any athletes. And I reached out and I was just doing some due diligence feedback. I was like, what happened? They were like, well, we're very concerned about athletes at the moment in this political time. And if someone does anything that doesn't align with our brand. And at the bottom in their signature, it said, we are committed to Black Lives Matter. And I was like, okay, it's very nice that you've put it in your signature, but you need to prove it by the actions you're taking, right? And it might be a bit uncomfortable and it might go on for longer than you expect, right? It's not just about that initial meeting to be like, hey, what can we do to improve diversity? It's about saying, okay, in 5 months, we're going to check in and make sure, we're going to stay true to our cause. And I think that's the most important thing at this moment is you can't forget things, right? You can't just let the cycle repeat itself. So how do we, especially in the tech world, we're always moving our KPIs, we're moving our metrics, we're trying to do something else. These very big issues today are things, whether it's sustainability, the environment, global warming, Black Lives Matter, political sides, these are things that we mustn't lose sight of, even if next quarter we have something different to think about for our business.
Yeah, I think that's a great closing message. Well, I really appreciate all of you spending so much time with us today. Gold medal athlete, an Olympic power lifter, and maybe the person with the best New Jersey accent in Ishveen, right? we would sound so much better as a state if we could pull that off. But thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. We've got a lot more really great content coming up. Next up is Cindy Eckert on how she built her billion-dollar pharmaceutical company. She's known as the Pink CEO, so stick around. Again, thank you guys so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Oh, I almost forgot the most important thing, which is if we were in person, I'd make everybody in the audience stand up and high-five their neighbor. But since we can't do that in person, on the count of 3, high-five your camera. 1, 2, 3, boom. I hope you guys did at home also stand up and felt super awkward and high-fiving the screen, but we're there with you in spirit. Okay, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And everybody stick around.